I show you where you went wrong, and I try to teach you why you went wrong, not reprimand you for being wrong.
You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
Welcome to The Ride, a bi-weekly podcast brought to you by Horse and Rider Magazine, co-hosted by Nichole Cherico and Devin Conley. In each episode, we chat with some of the industry's top trainers, clinicians, horsekeeping experts, and professionals to share inspiring stories, training philosophies, and the importance of living your best Western horse life.
Today, on this episode of the Ride Podcast, we are joined by one of the most legendary and well-respected horse trainers in the industry, Al Dunning. Al talks horse training philosophies, his 5 basic training steps, and how we can all be a better rider. This week's episode is brought to you by ManaPro. And it's going to announce itself to us. And okay. All right. Welcome back to the Ride Podcast. My name is Devin. Today, I am joined by the legendary trainer, Al Dunning. He doesn't require much of an introduction, as his involvement in the horse industry is widely known. But with over 45 world and reserve world titles, Al and his students have dominated in many events. So, Al, thank you for joining us today. We're so excited you're here.
Thank you, Devin. I'm glad to be with you.
All right, folks. So we're going to start by just putting Al on the spot here with a tough question and asking him, if you could sum up your training philosophy in just a few sentences, what would that be?
Boy, I read these questions a little earlier and I came up with some great answers, and now I can't remember any of them. So
that's how it goes. Yep.
I'm going to wing it as I go. How's that? So, it's interesting because I've trained so many different horses, so many different breeds, so many different qualities of horses for so many different events, that I think the one philosophy is let the horse decide its timeline for improvement. And I think that's the key, that nobody can say. When I first started training horses, the guy that I worked for, the very first guy I worked for when I was 12, he said he called them 30-day wonders. So in 30 days, we were supposed to have that horse doing exponentially more amazing things. And it didn't always work out so good. So, but I think what I've learned after the period of time is to let the horse tell me. I think I have a system that I do. So every horse is trained the same. And then once I get to a point, they tell me which direction they want to go and how fast they want to go there. And then some horses tell me, that they have a better athletic ability and a better mindset for, the particular event we want to do. And others say, I'd be a better horse if you took me in a different direction, or, maybe spend a little more time working on these certain aspects and then go forward with me. So, and it's interesting. I know for a fact in training philosophy that if you force a horse, it only lasts for only a period of time till the horse learns to have these built-in defense mechanisms. And then you won't have that super solid, super happy horse at the end. So if you just take your time and you let the horse kind of tell you it's how quick it learns, then you'll have a horse that probably you'll be able to mold into better shape, and it'll stay that way instead of reverting to, resistance and things like that because, you've been too rough or something like that with the horse. So I've got so many philosophies, Devin, with the horses. It's crazy. So one is that, like, a girl was riding a horse today and she's pulling it around and it's misbehaving a little bit. And she just goes to jerking on it and stuff. And I said, whoa, wait a second. You know, the punishment has got to match the crime. Okay. That horse just made a little mistake and you made a big deal out of it. Now you're going to cause all these defense mechanisms. You're going to bring in that horse where it's going to want to fight. It's going to want to fight and flight. And you're causing that. And if you just would stop and think and just take your time to work it out, it would work out better. So I've got all kinds of little things like that. I could go on. Is this your only subject? Because this could be the one. So I have this thing called the yardstick theory. Okay. Now, yardstick theory. The yardstick theory is over on the far number one on the yardstick is a horse activist, and they think that horses should never be touched, should be out in the wild and never be wormed or whatever. I don't know. Just, let go. On the far 36 inches down that yardstick is the guy that thinks like he can beat it into him, any horse. He can make him do it. He can whatever. And true horse training is somewhere in around 18 inches, somewhere in the center. It's that deal that says, I'm a human, you're a horse. I should tell you what to do. And if you don't do it, I should have some kind of a criticism of you and show you what to do. So it's always that I reward you, I show you, I reward you for being good. I show you and I show you where you went wrong, and I try to teach you why you went wrong, not reprimand you for being wrong. And so I have that in the 18-inch area is the right kind of horse trainer, not the person that all they do is pet them and feed them cookies on the far side, and then one guy on the far side, on the other side, that thinks that they can force them to do anything.
Well, I think that's great, and I think people are going to love this. We can talk about this the whole time. What does the reward look like? Can you give like a couple examples of a reward when you, and folks that don't know, Al is our expert in our problem solve department for the print issue of the magazine. So if you're fixing a problem, solving a problem, and correcting a horse, can you give a few examples of the reward?
Rewards come in all kinds of ways. So it's interesting. So a reward can be standing still, stopping what you're doing, just standing there. Reward can be bending them around and petting them on the outside of the neck with your hand while you're bending them. A reward can be, you're pulling on them and they finally give their head and you release, can be the reward, So rewards come in so many different ways. You've got to have that deal where, you're always thinking if the horse does something or gives, that you're going to give back. So as a rider, I think you got to give back as much as the horse gives to you. And obviously when it comes to taking, you have to, when you take, meaning when you pick up your rein and pull it, you need to have a little jiggle in your hand, a little feel in your hand before you take a hold of the bit. And you have to realize that before you can reward, you got to realize that when you take or pick up the rein, that the signal has many different aspects. So it's the horse feels you sliding your hand down the rein to shorten it up. The horse feels that rein sliding up their neck a little bit before it touches the bit. The sides of the bit start moving slightly, and then finally the bit starts pulling it. Let's say for a snaffle, starts pulling and moving the inside of the cheek, and then the outside of the bit starts pushing on the outside of the cheek. So you have all these things. Some people don't have enough feel in their hand to say, I want to see if all these things work to benefit that horse, and that he says, gosh, you know what? If I feel that rein coming up my neck, then the wiggle of the bit doesn't have to happen. And then if that doesn't have to happen, the pull doesn't have to happen. If that doesn't have to happen, then the harder pull doesn't have to happen. So the horse gets smarter and smarter as he goes, but the rider has to be smarter than the horse.
Okay, that makes sense. And you mentioned feel, and I always love to talk to people like yourself that are just so experienced. Do you think feel is one of those things that it can be taught, or is it something that you just have to have inherently? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think some people naturally have a little forceful way of riding, especially riders that are more scared. I think the rougher the rider, I think the more scared they are of horses to me. So the lighter the hands and the more, confident a rider is, the easier they can do it because they're confident in what they're doing. So they're not worried that something's not going to happen, or the horse isn't going to respond, or they're not going to be looked at as a good trainer or a macho person or something like that. So I think you got to have that natural ability to say, I'm going to try to accomplish something with the least amount of pressure I possibly can put on the horse. Okay, that's the goal. Now, the next step is that you should use as much as necessary to get the job done. So the object of what another part of the training philosophy is, first, do whatever you can do at the least that you possibly can do it to get the job done. But incrementally do what you need to do, to add on to that if the horse doesn't respond properly.
Right.
So instead of somebody just getting on and just glomming onto that son of a gun, or just booting it in the belly or pulling its head around, that's what feel is. Feel is trying to do things as little as possible. Like lead changes are always a thing that people freak out on. I've been real fortunate to be real good and teach hundreds of people how to do lead changes. And my philosophy is to don't force it. Try to do as little as you can to get the lead change. And if you miss it, don't make a big deal out of it. Okay. Instead of thinking it has to happen right now, allow there to be some slack in the rope, allow there to be some time, a learning curve here, allow the horse to try to understand it without being forced into it. And then they'll do it so much easier and so much smoother as they go.
Introducing MaxiGlow Senior Stabilized Rice Bran Supplement, formulated in an easy-to-chew, soft pellet to keep your senior horse thriving for years to come. MaxiGlow Senior contains high fat and protein levels to keep your horse healthy and strong, probiotics and yeast to support digestion and gut health, omega-3 fatty acids for a shiny, glowing coat, and controlled starch levels for safe, concentrated energy. See the MaxiGlow difference. Now available at Tractor Supply. Okay. And so on that topic, that makes me think, is that a problem? One of the biggest problems you see people, or mistakes that you see people making, is getting in a rush and trying to push a horse faster than they're ready for, or trying to push themselves faster than they're ready for? Or what are some of the major problems you see people having with horses that could be fixed easily?
So here's another philosophy area. Okay. So there you came up with a great question again. So here's my philosophy there. Horses are an alphabet. Okay. They got to go from A, and a great horse that's fully trained is a Z. And you may never get to a Z in your horse, and you still might have a super duper horse, somewhere about an R. Okay. Do you got that? But as you train, you got to go A, B, C, D. If you forget a part in there that's important, if you try to jump, let's say all of a sudden you get this horse going around and he kind of acts like he's going to stop. Now all of a sudden you think the next day you're going to get on and just run and pull, and he's going to slide 20 feet. You forgot why. You forgot making the horse confident in the thing. So you got to go back and you got to make sure the horse understands the basics, understands the fundamentals. So that's the A, B, C, D, E, F, G kind of area that you got to work in. That's the most important. You got to remember, when you build anything, foundation is the most important. When you build a house, the foundation's got to be solid or the house falls down. If you build a horse, you got to have a solid foundation so that as you go through this, if you have any problems, you have a fallback to the foundation area. That's why I developed my thing I called my 5 basics. I have all these things, don't I, Devin? It's crazy. So
it's wonderful. Let's hear the 5 basics.
But I like teaching. Okay, so here's my 5 basics. And so when I got to thinking, okay, somehow or another, when doing a clinic, I got to come up with an idea of what I'm going to teach here. Okay, because usually they would say it's a reining clinic. And so it was easy. I taught circles, stops, lead changes. But then somebody would say, okay, I want you to do just a regular horse training clinic. And I want you to help teach these riders to help. And so here I was, and I thought, oh my gosh, I got to think of this. So here's what I thought. This is what I thought of. So if you were going to take a baby that was just born, and you were going to gather that baby up, and you got it in your arms, and you finally got a halter on. Okay, what would be the first thing when you put the halter on you'd want that baby to do? And I thought, well, let's see. Probably the neatest thing would be if you could lead it forward. Okay.
Sure.
So my number one basic of all training, horseback or on foot, is that every horse should go forward readily and should rate its speed. Okay. The second thing I thought that baby should do, because I used to break a lot of babies, halter break them and stuff, and I remember that a lot of times you got them going forward, they went forward pretty fast, so the next thing you had to do is pull them to the side, and they had to turn. So when I break a horse and I get it in the round pen and I get on it, I know that if I go forward, they're safer. A horse that rears up or runs backwards is really scary. Okay, that's not good. So if I can get it going forward, even if it bucks, you can usually ride one if it's going forward. Okay. The second thing you do with a horse in the round pen, or as a horse with a baby, is you make them turn. So, and if you go from the beginning of the turn, meaning that all you got to do is redirect the feet. Okay.
Sure.
So you redirect the feet, or you could even get to the point where, later on you roll back or you spin or you do more than that. So you got all this stuff. If you think about going forward, if my number one could be that horse lopes off really smooth, keeps his head down, picks up the correct lead, is totally simple to do that with. And that's the precursor to the lead change and everything else. So now we have go forward and we have turn right and left, and the turn right and left should be equal. Well, the next thing I did with the horse with the halter, the baby with the halter, is that somehow or another I got to stop them, right?
Yeah.
So the third basic was stopping. And, now I got this horse 2-year-old in the round pen, and I got him going forward and I got him turning. Well, somehow or another I got to get stopped, right? So that's my next basic, is stopping. And I'll explain a little more to you when I'm done here, because this is kind of cool how it worked out. So then I thought, well, okay, what's another thing a horse has to do to accept the bridle and maybe understand a few things? They got to back up. Horses got to back. I mean, that's part of it. So now I got him going forward, I got him turning right and left, I got him stopping, and I got him backing. That's pretty cool. So there's got to be some other aspect of training that I left out.
Okay.
That doesn't relate to that baby because it's advanced, and that's collection. So he's got to collect. Now, collection isn't just about frame, not about tucking the head. It's about moving off my leg, having leg control. It's about 2-tracking, side passing. It's about flexing the pole. It's about rounding the horse's back. It's about riding from the back to the front.
It's got to be the final piece. So,
yeah, it's the final piece. But you're kind of working on it as you work on all that other stuff too. So I'm going to go over this one more time, and I want you to understand why it's so important that the horse understands 5 basics. And you can work on it, Devin, every single day, all 5 of these. Because when I work on walking forward, when I work on forward motion, that could mean that horse walking off, going from the standstill to the jog, going from the standstill to the lope, having rating of his speed, speeding up, slowing down. You think about it, all the going, making sure they lope off with the hip first, making sure the head stays in a good, solid position. Look at all the stuff you can work on just on going forward. And then think about turning right and left. He should turn equally to the right. He should to the left. He should take a 1 rein pull. He should neck rein in the turn. He should be able to spin. He should be able to roll back. He should be able to roll back and lope off. He should be able to work a cow. He should be able to just think all that right and left stuff. Then stopping. He should be able to stop. He should be able to stop. He should be able to slide. He should be able to rope a calf, and he should be able to learn to use his front end, helping him to stop. There's all kinds of stopping. Backing, he should be able to back a circle. He should be able to back a serpentine. He should give his head when he backs up. He should, goes on and on. And collection is amazing. Collection is it's the gateway to lead changes. It's the gateway to, having a horse be truly round and really super broke. So look at all the stuff you can work on, just working on those 5 basics.
Oh, yeah, that's incredibly helpful. I mean, even for me, I'm just sitting here thinking of like how that can be added into just my warm-up routine when I'm warming up even, like seasoned horses. That's incredibly helpful. I mean, it sounds like they should probably be able to do all those things before you introduce them to a show pen, right?
Well, yeah, the deal is you should probably work on the 5 basics every day on every horse, no matter what stage they're at. Because again, they go from super basic to totally sublime, so you got all this stuff you can do. And when a person's struggling with a part of the horse, it would be good to go back and go, gosh, I need to check those and make sure all those are working right before, and see if that's really the problem or what's going on with my horse.
Okay. So yeah, just break it down and go back to where you're having trouble and start over from that basic step. Yeah, that's super helpful. And it's crazy how fast time has gone in this interview, but what, if I could ask you something that would make our listeners or myself or anybody listening right now a better rider today, something that they could be doing other than, working on the 5 basics, what could we all be doing to make us a better rider today?
Well, I think number one, you got to love your horse, but you have to understand that they're a horse and you're a person, and that they look at you for everything. They look at you for their direction, their care, your feed, and everything like that. So you have to realize how important you are to the horse, but you have to also realize that you're the human and they're the horse. I think the second thing is that good horsemanship starts with a solid foundation, good seat. You use your legs more than your hands. I don't see, if I have one thing I work on people more at my ranch than anything else is using their legs. Using their hands is like, pretty simple because they think and then they move their hands, but sometimes people think and don't use their legs, and so that's such an important part. And without using your legs, you lack collection, because that's really where the collection comes from. But learn more about, why the classic dressage riders ride the way they do, and have a focus. I think that's a really cool deal, is that someone just riding. I think trail riders are great. They're focusing on enjoying life, and they're not focusing on their horse. They're out there looking at the scenery or whatever like that. But I think anybody that is, I'm a competitive trainer. I have a competitive look at things. So I'm trying to make the horses as good as they can possibly be. And when I say make, I should say develop them to be, because I don't want to make them do anything. I want them to be willing to do it. I want to try to figure out a way to make them willing every day.
Yeah.
And I know if you can finish your ride and think, that horse just thought he won that. He thought he accomplished that. It made him happy. Because when I played basketball, and I always shot until I made that last shot. And then I thought, yeah, okay, when I get back next time I get that ball in my hand, I'll be able to make the shot. I feel the same way with a horse. I feel like if they finish on a high note, they'll start on a high note next time you get on them.
That's such valuable information. I mean, I feel like people are going to have to listen to this episode like a few times. There's so much stuff jam-packed in here. Get your notes out and write down the 5 basics and everything. I'm so grateful you joined us today. Where are you headed next? I know you've got some events coming up. Where can we watch for you to be out there competing?
I'm pretty hard to watch because I move around so much. But
he really does.
Day after tomorrow, I go to Calgary to do a clinic up there for the Calgary Quarter Horse Association in Claresholm. And then I go to Montrose, Colorado to show at a cutting up there the following week. Then I'm going to go back to my cabin in Spirit Lake, Iowa and go fishing for a week. So, and then I come home and I go to another cutting in Ignacio, Colorado. And then I'm going to do I'm going to do some work at the Run for a Million once again in Las Vegas. So I'm going to do the commentary for the reining and some of the other major events, and I'm going to do a little judging up there, and it's really good. So it's going to be a pretty exciting time coming up.
That sounds like it, especially the fishing. That sounds wonderful. I hope that you.
No, that's my biggest event. Fishing and golfing and riding horses is my life.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you gotta have things that you love outside horses, I think, right? Keep it fresh.
Yeah, right. I love it. I just love it.
Well, right. Thank you so much for your time and your wisdom. And as always, folks, you can find Al in the Problem Solve department of our magazine and contributing, and we just really appreciate him. So thanks for being here.
Thank you, Devin.
Thank you guys for tuning into the Ride Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and please be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow Horse and Rider Magazine on social media and find us at horseandrider.com to see all the cool things that we're up to. And if you have any comments or questions, please be sure to hit us up at horseandrider@equinenetwork.com. We want to hear from you guys. And if you like what you're listening to, please be sure to leave us a review on iTunes.